I'd like to keep us in town until we get the task done. I think all of us want to see the one big beautiful bill signed into law by President Trump by July 4th. But the reason for that is we need to really get the U.S. economy growing again. How do we do that? Making these tax cuts that were originally put into place in 2017 permanent, making the energy reforms that are in the bill into law, and making sure we continue to build on the success of securing the U.S.-Mexico border. And so it's positive news. The Senate is moving forward. The Senate's a little slow, but the Senate's making progress. And it puts us in a position to get this all the way across the line.
What do you make of this whole SALT controversy or debate at this point? Congressman, you already went through it in the House. You guys hammered it out. The Ways and Means Committee said 30. The final deal was $40,000 up from 10, which the New York and New Jersey, California delegations were pretty happy about. Your colleague Mike Lawler spoke with us about it, Congressman Lolota and others who are very happy to be able to bring this home to their constituents. The Senate doesn't see it this way, and so we're renewing this whole conversation. Apparently, we're going to go through this all over again. What do your constituents, what do the people at the Deer Camp bar tonight think about helping New Yorkers subsidize their taxes?
It's a little early for deer season, but I'll talk to you about the fishing camp. I think at the end of the day, what we don't want to do is be subsidizing inefficient states in local government. You can just look at who came out of the Democratic primary for mayor in New York, recognizing when tax costs go up, we don't want to see the federal government subsidizing that. So I'm on the side of bringing the SALT deduction down. That said, there was a negotiation put in place in the House. $40,000 was the agreed upon amount. Not everyone got everything they wanted in the House version of the one big beautiful bill. Now the Senate is having their chance to have a conversation on this exact same topic. We're going to look to see what the Senate gets out, and at the end of the day, we have to have a bill that passes both the House and the Senate. I'm on the side I'd like to bring the SALT tax deduction down, but no one is going to have their way unilaterally.
Well, and obviously bringing the SALT deduction down is one way to bring down the total price tag of this package. Congressman, there is a very real chance that what comes out of the Senate is heftier in terms of price tag than what you and your colleagues passed in the House. Are we still going to be able to call it fiscally responsible legislation once the Senate's done?
Well, we had a problem, I know, at the birdbath as it relates to some of the cost savings on some critical programs to make sure that they're focused in on those that they were truly designed for. That's true in SNAP benefits, in some other areas. As it relates to the tax benefits, I think putting in place additional pro-growth tax policies is actually a win for the American public at the end of the day. And so there's two aspects of this. There's one is the cost savings from the spending side. There's frustration that the Senate rules didn't allow some of those provisions to be brought into the final package. On the tax side, we need to make sure that we are keeping in place those tax cuts from 2017, making them permanent. And the reason for that is because that's what is going to drive forward economic growth, and it's economic growth that will actually generate larger tax revenues in the future, in the same way that we saw tax revenues actually increase going into the pandemic after the implementation of the 2017 tax cuts.
Yeah, well, let's assume your colleagues in the Senate get their work done here in the next couple of days. Congressman, maybe you're hearing something you can tell us about there in terms of the cadence in the Senate, although I know it's a bit difficult to predict. There are a lot of headlines out there that the Senate is about to jam the House, and I'm sure you love reading those. What's really about to happen? I guess there won't be a conference committee. What happens when that legislation comes back your way?
Well, the Senate is really building on the House product, and so I don't view this as the Senate being in a position to jam the House. The Senate is making adjustments and amendments to a House product. So it origined in the House. I think that's a positive thing. When these adjustments come back, it'll be an opportunity for us to most likely have an up or down vote. Overall, like I said, no one's going to get 100% of what they want in this legislation. The question of the vote is going to be, does the bill at its core move the country in the right direction? I believe the House version did, and I'm optimistic I'll be able to reach the same conclusion when the Senate bill is finalized.
I'd like to ask you about another subject area in which the House and Senate are going to have to figure out how to align themselves, Congressman, knowing you chair the subcommittee on digital assets. The Senate obviously passed the Genius Act stablecoin legislation last week. They would like to see that passed as a standalone measure in the House as well, though I know the committee is considering combining it with market structure legislation. And we had the chance to speak with Republican Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, who, of course, championed that legislation in the Senate, about the idea of combining these two things yesterday. This is what he told us, sir, and we'll have you respond.
It's going to be complicated here because of two committees that have to be involved in this, and it's going to take more time. I think my advice to everybody would be, let's take the win now, let's build momentum, and then let's dedicate our time to going further as market structure and other opportunities present themselves. But right now, timing is critical for a number of reasons. We want to get this started, we want to get this moving, and again, open up this new market for digital assets.
So, Congressman, like we originally were discussing with reconciliation, one bill or two, do you still maintain that this should be one bill, not two?
Strategically, I think we're actually all aligned. The president wants to actually see three pieces of crypto legislation on his desk before the August recess. That's stablecoin market structure legislation and blocking a CBDC being developed at the Fed. As it relates to the first two bills, we need to make sure that we stay focused strategically on getting both of those passed and across the line. The House has been hard at work at market structure, even passing a market structure bill last Congress, garnering over 70 Democratic votes on the House floor. The Senate, encouragingly, has begun engaging in this debate very recently. It's positive that we're seeing movement in the Senate in that regard, but I think at the end of the day, the tactical decision needs to be made based on how we get both bills across the line and signed into law.
So you're open to passing a standalone stablecoin bill or sending that to the president's desk without, in fact, marrying these two together?
I want to make sure that the plan ends with both bills being signed into law. The Senate often is slow, as we've discussed before, on a whole host of topics and legislation. I want to make sure that we are moving both bills to signature to the president as fast as we can and taking an opportunity here with the momentum that's being built on in the Senate by the passage of the Genius Act to make sure that both pieces of legislation are signed into law by President Trump before the August recess.
Well, that covers us on your chairmanship of the Digital Assets Subcommittee, sir, but you also, of course, chair the House Committee on Administration, which puts you in the conversations around security for members in the aftermath of the shootings of those Minnesota state lawmakers earlier this month, knowing there is also a live conversation around risks of potential terrorism here at home in the aftermath of the U.S.'s attacks on Iran. What do we need to know about the conversation that is being had currently about making sure our elected representatives are secure inside the Capitol and beyond it?
As chairman of administration, I've continued to have conversations with a large number of individuals to make sure that we keep not only members and their families safe, but we keep staff and visitors safe as well. Here on Capitol Hill, we're in a reasonably good position. The United States Capitol Police have an incredibly difficult job of keeping Capitol Hill open and accessible to the American public while keeping it safe. Back home in members' districts, sometimes there is a unique challenge. It's brought to light by the horrific events that occurred in the state of Minnesota last weekend. And so what we're doing is reevaluating the security positions that we have to make sure that members and their families are safe in their home districts. It's essential that everyone not only feels safe, but is safe, and that's incredibly important in a period of time of heightened political rhetoric and some of the security challenges that we face globally right now.
Well, that's fascinating, Congressman. Should this be a case-by-case situation when it comes to applying these resources? Or if you're a member of Congress, do you get a security detail?
The best way to handle the security measure is a risk-based analysis, not to do it in a blanket one-size-fits-all approach, but to make sure that we are meeting the needs. There's a number of resources that are already available on Capitol Hill to make sure not only, again, that members, but also staff and visitors are safe. We need to make sure that people are taking advantage of those, making sure that they're doing the work to protect themselves, and to make sure that we do have the abundance of resources to make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep individuals safe. At a period of time with heightened rhetoric, with some of the geopolitical challenges that we have across the globe, it's of paramount importance that we're maintaining and protecting our democracy by protecting those individuals that step up to serve the country.